All right, hey folks, Kyle here from Black Box. Welcome to the channel. Today I wanted to just make a quick video going through some of the recent record store vinyl finds I've picked up lately. I got some really cool used vinyl from three artists, basically, Bob Dylan, the Beatles, and the Stones. We're going to go through all the stuff that I've picked up. I think I got some, pretty good finds in the scheme of things. The first one I wanted to show off is Bob Dylan, Slow Train Coming. I'll take it out of the plastic. I got this for, I'm looking at the tag right now, I got it for $6 in pretty good condition. I know as far as Dylan records go, this is probably the cheapest one you'd find out in the wild. I'm slowly building up my Dylan collection. It's kind of a mixture of old used records I've picked up as well as new reissues that I've bought, but I didn't have Slow Train Coming yet. And my favorite track on here is Gotta Serve Somebody. That sounds great. It sounds great on my speakers too. It's just a really, it's got a really, really thick bass line. And it's really, really cool to listen to. It's one of my favorite tracks by Bob, definitely. So I'm really, really glad that I picked this up. This is just on standard black vinyl, but I thought for $6, that's a really, really good, really, really good find. I think of Bob's stuff, I'm trying to work as far as new, sorry, not new, as far as reissues go, I'm trying to start just from the beginning. So I have Bob's first album, which I've done a video on here, unboxing Bob's debut album. We send that out in the club a lot. It's a really, really good album. If you haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. And if you're a member of the club and you want to get into some Bob Dylan, we love sending out that debut album. So definitely go look at that video, and in the comments, if you're interested in getting that record, definitely feel free to post. The next record that I got, so here's the thing. Not a huge Beatles guy. I grew up entirely into the Stones. My whole family is huge into the Rolling Stones. I'm extremely jaded about the Beatles and Rolling Stones argument. I think Stones over Beatles 100%. It comes down to a lot of things, sure, but I think mostly what it comes down to is the fact that I respect the Stones so much more for touring as long as they have. I think a huge part of being a band is going out and playing live shows, and the fact that the Beatles stopped so early is honestly a huge negative mark when I'm comparing the two groups. But that's besides the point, because I know a ton of you guys out here in YouTube really dig the Beatles, and I love the Beatles too. It's just that I get kind of defensive when I start comparing them to the Rolling Stones, who I think are the greatest group of all time. But when I saw this at the record store available for use, it's very lightly used though, Live at the Hollywood Bowl. I know that this is an extremely famous album, and it really looks great. You got a nice little like ticket stub image here, and it actually kind of juts out from the jacket a little bit, so I like that kind of texture. It's a gatefold. If you look at that, that's a really cool image on the gatefold. So I thought that was a really good buy. And even the first track on this album is Twist and Shout, and it actually is, it's outrageous, just the crowd volume, just the shrieks of thousands of, mostly I would assume, girl screams. You can tell just how much of a phenomenon Beatles mania was. So it's really cool to get this piece of history. I'll show you what the vinyl looks like and the sleeve itself. So you got some nice, let's see. That's a really cool picture of what I assume is the crowd at that show. So you got women basically climbing on top of one another just to get a better look. Look at that. Girls, like I just said, screaming. You can hear it on every song. And that's what's really cool about this album in general, is you can just hear how pumped up the crowd is for the entire show. And that brings me back to my earlier point about there's nothing like a live music experience. And as a band, I think there's no better way to reward your fan base than playing these shows. And it's such a shame that the Beatles just called it quits so early for a lot of reasons. But I mean, one reason most of all is that they stopped doing live shows, and I think that's a huge shame and a huge net loss for the music world. So that's just my thoughts on the matter. I'll show you the wax itself now. It's got a really cool label again, showing off just like the ticket stub imagery. I think that is pretty cool. I was really glad to get this. I have a few of the Beatles' greatest hits records, but I'm definitely trying to build up my Beatles collection. Partly because, I think that any fan of music should have those in their collection. But another reason is that I see so many of you on here that just love the Beatles, and I'm really trying to get into them, like you guys are. Maybe not quite. I just don't know if it's gonna stick with me as much as maybe it does with you. But I'm definitely trying to give it a shot. Definitely trying to get more interested in their catalog. So if you're a huge Beatles fan, you got any tips for me? Any specific tracks, specific albums, specific factoids that you think me learning about would make it a cooler experience for me? Definitely comment those. Help me out. I'm really trying to get into the Beatles. Another thing that I've been looking at, I've been looking into buying Beatles a box set. I've talked to a couple people on Facebook. I'm in a couple Facebook selling marketplaces that people just sell old records, and I'm talking to a few people about buying an entire Beatles collection. And I would love to actually do a series of videos of me just listening and giving my thoughts and showing off the vinyl of the entire Beatles discography, basically one at a time. I mean, I'm definitely not listening to these songs for the first time, but I definitely haven't been super into the Beatles, so I kind of want to catalog my efforts to getting into the band and just see if I can get engaged that way and give you guys my thoughts as I discover the Beatles one record at a time. So I'm working on that. I'm working on collecting at least the studio discography, the main, I think they've called it like the main 12. Maybe you guys could help me out, but just the main studio releases. I know it can get kind of tricky, kind of messy with all the compilation albums and re-releases that went on, especially in the 60s, as groups were just hammering out, 3, 4, 5 albums a year. But I'm definitely want to just narrow down the main studio albums that the Beatles have. I want to get all those on vinyl. I want to show them off and then kind of just give my thoughts on each of the album, and I'm going to go through it chronologically. That's just something I have planned for this channel moving forward. And I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that. All right, and then the next, let's see, how many do I got? The next 3 records that I got in the last couple weeks are Stones records. Like I said, huge Stones guy. I got a good amount of new reissues, but these 3 I haven't had in my collection. Decided to buy them used just because it's an easier way to get these in my collection. 3 great records. So the first one is Tattoo You, which I think is definitely one of the coolest cover arts in the Stones catalog. There's Keith. Keith is just such a badass. I mean, I can't get enough of Keith. Here's the sleeve. Kind of a trippy, what is that? Is that like a werewolf in a high heel? I don't know. Sometimes you don't really know what kind of drugs these guys were on when they were making this music, so some of the stuff gets a little out there. Here's the wax, just standard wax. But this is a really good album. Leads off with Start Me Up, which is probably one of the best opening tracks of all their records. I mean, great song. It's a concert staple. I'm actually going to see the Stones at least twice this summer, maybe a third, depending if I want to put down enough money for the second Chicago show. But the first time I'm seeing the Stones this summer, I'm going down to New Orleans for Jazz Fest. Super pumped to see them in New Orleans at a GA type setting. I'm really excited for that. I'm going to try to get there as soon as the gates open early in the morning, see how close I can get. So wish me luck on that. It's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be a madhouse that whole day. Really excited to see them there. And then they're coming to Chicago, which is where I live. I'm going to see them. I already have tickets to the Friday night show, and then they're playing again the following Tuesday. I don't have tickets to that Tuesday show yet. I'm really considering it. It depends how reckless I want to be with my money. I've already bought a bunch of concert tickets for this upcoming summer, so we'll see if I have the money, but I'm definitely on the lookout, so I wouldn't be surprised if I saw them a third time. Another record that I picked up while shopping in the wild is Big Hits Volume 2. I've always seen this. This is actually a really, I think, popular album in record stores. It's all over the place. I'm sure they printed millions and millions of these at the time they released it. But it's kind of unique because the corners, it's like the jacket itself doesn't have corners. So that's one way that it's unique. This is kind of beat up, but again, I mean, some of these compilation albums, I know they're not as cool to have from a collector's perspective, but that being said, it's good just to get all these songs compiled together if you just want to jam out. Leads off with Honky Tonk Woman, Ruby Tuesday, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Paint It Black. I mean, all great songs. Really excited to put that in my collection. I'm going to put that down. Because the best pickup of my recent forays into the record hunting wild is definitely what I'm about to show you. It's a 12-inch single. It's Miss You and Faraway Eyes on this really cool jacket from 1978. The jacket itself is beat up, but I'll tell you what's not beat up. And it's the wax itself. And the coolest part about this find, and I'm sure some of you guys out there are more experienced than I am, more knowledgeable about this stuff. I knew that colored vinyl existed, you know, way back in the day, but I knew that it was very, very rare. A lot of times the quality was really, really down. I know that colored vinyl is a huge thing nowadays. Obviously, I see a ton all the time. I have a ton in my collection. I got most of my records are over in my other room, by the way. So that's just a little bit of my recent playlist over there. But I own a ton of colored vinyl. I love colored vinyl. But when I'm shopping for older records, I kind of always just assumed I wasn't going to find any colored vinyl out in the wild. But this 12-inch single is on incredibly awesome hot pink vinyl. So it's got Miss You on the front on the A side, and it's got Faraway Eyes on the B side. And I mean, these are two great songs. Miss You is another awesome song that I love how it sounds, especially playing on my turntable. Because it's got that really, really thick bass line, really, really iconic, just opening riff. So this is an awesome record to have. It's an two awesome songs. Faraway Eyes and Miss You, two of the best songs in the Stones catalog. But what I specifically think is so cool about this is that this is a really, really nice, it still looks perfect. Practically no wear marks, no scratches at all. And it sounds great on this really, really hot pink wax. And this was pressed in 1978. So actually, if you guys have come across older records from around that time in the 70s or whatever that's colored, I'd actually like to know what groups were pressing on colored vinyl back then, and what records you have that are kind of older but still on colored vinyl. Definitely let me know what type of stuff you guys got, because before coming across this, I knew that a few existed out there, but I really was not expecting to find this awesome single from, you know, one of my favorite bands of all time, printed on such beautiful wax in such good condition. This really sounds great. There's really no pops, no crackles or anything. So I was really psyched to add this to my collection. These records I got from Rattleback Records in Chicago, so shout out to them on Clark Avenue. That's probably the record store it's one of the record stores that's closest to where I live. So I go there pretty often. Was psyched with what I've gotten there the last few weeks. Really good prices. They're a pretty new place. So if you're in Chicago, you're looking for new places to go buy records, check out Rattleback Records. And that's that. I'm going to put that down. Thanks for coming by the channel, guys. Just wanted to show off those quick finds. I'll be doing more videos moving forward. I'll do some videos on the type of stuff that we send out through Black Box, and sometimes I'll just be posting videos like this, showing random videos from my collection, maybe some stuff that I find at the record stores, maybe some other unique parts of my collection. But that's that. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you can be updated with more videos as I post them. So all right, have a good one, guys. I'll see you later.